en omgewingsvolhoubaarheid, sowel as landbouontwikkeling. Die jongste verslag van die gemeenskapseiendomsvereniging toon 82% van 1700 verenigings voldoen nie aan bestuursvereistes nie. Dit ondermyn produktiewe grondgebruik. Die Vumelana Advisory Fund het in 13 jaar 26 vennootskappe moontlik gemaak tussen gemeenskappe en privaat beleggers. Vumelana pleit vir kapasiteitsbou, geakkrediteerde adviespanele en regeringsmeganismes vir nakoming en kennisgewings. OVK se 5de winterveiling in Kybega getuig weer van sterk vertroue in die
Sit nou weer die ligte af, maar ons gaan nie slaap nie.
This is the OFM Agri Hour. Good morning and welcome. My name is Gerben van Niekerk. Now, CPAs or Communal Property Associations' main role is to manage land. Isabel van Tonne now talks to Peter Setou, Chief Executive of the Vumelana Advisory Fund, about the function of CPAs and their main objectives.
OFM Agri speaks to Peter Setou, Chief Executive of the Vumelana Advisory Fund. Peter, can you please explain what is the function of CPAs and what is their main objectives?
CPA basically is an acronym for Communal Property Association. These are structures or bodies that have been created in terms of the CPA Act of 1996. The main aim for CPAs or rationale for their existence is to really look after restored land as part of the restitution program. So the CPAs or Communal Property Associations, if you like, are entities that are responsible for the management of restored land on behalf of the members of that specific Communal Property Association.
What is the main problems and how does weak CPA governance undermines the success of land reform, and what interventions can address this?
Well, there's a lot of information available around the challenges that CPAs continue to face. The CPA report or annual report that was tabled by the Department of Rural Development is a case in point here, which shows that 82% of the 1,700 registered CPAs are actually failing to meet, just your normal governance or requirement. That report has really shown that CPAs continue to face serious governance challenges that undermine their ability to use land productively. Remember, when this land is restored to communities, it's meant to benefit the communities. Now, these include weak or contested constitutions, unclear rules on membership qualification, poor record keeping of land rights, and the absence of succession planning. These issues are particularly pressing given the aging profile of many CPA members, because if you engage with CPA members, you literally find that a lot of CPA members, particularly at executive level, they are fairly older. So effective capacity building within CPAs remain crucial. But progress has largely been constrained by a combination of limited resources as one, logistical challenges, and the various levels of organizational readiness. So these constraints are also compounded by the diverse socio-economic context in which CPAs operate, requiring more tailored and sustained forms of support. So these sustained support and tailored interventions are critical to effectively address capacity building challenges that CPAs continue to face. Just in a nutshell, good governance is one of the important cornerstones for land reform, as it plays a crucial role in attracting investors and enabling beneficiaries to use their land productively. It's also key in building public trust and social cohesion within communities. Both communities and investors would like to get an assurance that the assets are managed responsibly, ethically, and in a transparent manner.
How could the CPAs be helped to strengthen governance, improve compliancy, transparency, and accountability?
Well, as a starting point, I think we need to start off by making sure that we make things a lot more easier for the CPAs. Because, I mean, if you look at prescripts that the CPA executive has got to navigate through in order to run their CPAs in a much more efficient manner, you actually get a sense that that's fairly complicated for some of them. So we need to implement capacity building and institutional support to ensure this good governance and transparency that I've referred to. Now, to do that, you need to have an accredited panel of advisors to assist them. Now, obviously, these advisors don't come for free. So government needs to find a creative way through which it can assist the communities by enlisting the services of an accredited panel of advisors who can really handhold them for a defined period to make sure that they're able to run their land productively. We also need to introduce mechanisms around ensuring that you can issue compliance notices and binding directives for non-compliant CPAs. But the reality is there are some non-compliant CPAs out there. So you need to make sure that they are properly regulated, but also reinforce the self-regulation element by introducing self-reporting requirements for the CPAs themselves to, on a periodic basis, to submit returns as part of monitoring their own compliance to key regulations.
Thank you so much, Isabel. She spoke to Peter Setou, and he's the Chief Executive of the Vumelana Advisory Fund, and they spoke about the function of CPAs and their main objectives.
No lag, no FOMO, absolutely no problemo. Chill out this November with Galaxy Level Glow. Scroll smooth.
The OFM Agri Hour, your morning devotional on the way, and your weather report 20 minutes before the Good Morning Breakfast at 6. Now, Peter Setou continues his discussion with Isabel van Tonner and gives an overview of Vumelana's work over the past 13 years.
Peter, could you tell us more about Vumelana's work over the past 13 years?
Vumelana has been around for just over 13 years, and we have worked with more than 50 CPAs across the country. Through our community-private partnership model, we have facilitated in excess of 26 partnerships between CPAs and private investors. And this was really aimed at mobilizing private investment to make sure that land can be used productively. We have to date mobilized in excess of R1 billion in investment funds, thus putting into productive use in excess of 72,000 hectares of land to productive use, and creating in excess of 2,500 jobs in the process. Obviously, one could say in the context of how big land reform is, this may be a drop in an ocean. However, if this can really be escalated, if we can really do more to make sure that more and more CPAs benefit from programs such as this, I think we'll make a dent to the challenges that are facing land reform, that are impacting on successful land reform in the country.
Peter, what is your strongest message concerning these issues?
Our message really is multi-pronged. One, it is directed to government. There is a need for government to actively recognize that CPAs need to be supported, and they need to allocate resources really targeted at supporting communal property associations. It's also imperative for the powers that be to really collaborate actively with players such as ourselves who are working in this field so that we don't reinvent the wheel. Let's look at what has worked thus far and really scale this up. Thirdly, we need to encourage the public, the private sector itself, because land reform is a constitutional responsibility for all of us. So we need to encourage the private sector to get more involved in supporting communal property associations, or rather beneficiaries of land reform. And as Vumelana, we are more than willing to really get involved and ensure that we can, really assist them in working with these communal property associations. So that for us is important. And lastly, it's important for the CPAs themselves to recognize, particularly executive committees, to recognize that as leaders within the CPA environment, they have to make sure that they transparently, run CPAs. Our experience has been that where there is lack of transparency, where there are no policies and procedures for running the affairs of CPAs, where the guidelines on how profits will be dealt with or shared, how ordinary members will benefit, and there is no feedback in the form of general meetings that are being held on a regular basis. This creates a fertile ground for disagreements and infightings among the communities, which often lead to destruction of assets. So we are calling on CPA executives to also do introspection and actually go back and look at how they've been running their affairs to make sure that they can run these CPAs in a much more open and transparent manner for the benefit of their members.
This is Isabel van Tonder for OFM Agri.
And that was part 2 of our discussion with Peter Setou, and he is a chief executive of the Vumelana Advisory Fund, and we spoke about the function of CPAs and their main objectives. Pieter Moller berig oor kenners wat produsente aanmoedig om biologiese gebasbeskerming